with the directing duo Alex and Steffen, and you are watching Eclectic Arts Media.
Because of the color green, not a lot of people choose it. I don't know why.
I call it silly little guy work. You get to just show up and have fun and be goofy.
Hi, I'm Jackson, and this is...
I'm Jake Shimobukuro.
And you're watching Eclectic Arts Media.
Anytime I'm doing anything, he wants to be involved. This is midnight.
If I can walk out of the ring the way I walked into it, I'm happy.
And that, and I'm like, I made it, I did it, and then I turned the wrong way, you know?
Life's not fair, is it?
I'm just going out meeting everyone dripping with sweat. Hey, who wants a hug? And then I'm singing and I'm going, I'm not all by myself anymore.
Oh, whoa. Whoa.
I know.
You are watching Eclectic Arts Media.
You know, even with editing, I get irritated. I'm like, but I get quite stubborn, you know?
An epic event.
And you sitting, okay, I believe you. So
I think I forgot your question, but I went on a different path, but it felt great.
I give myself 24 hours to be bummed, and then I got to move on. I don't have time for this.
And I need to keep as much hair as possible because, particularly in Hindley Street, no one's got hair. You'd fit right in, Mark. So
I can't believe it's been that long since we talked. Time flies.
Hello, you're ruling cards.
Right. They may be super confused. Like, what is this woman talking about?
Projects with whatever theater I could reach around here, you know.
all right, look here. Hey, this is Alex Story from Cancer Slug. This is Cancer Slug. And you're watching Eclectic Arts Media. See, I said it right.
Well, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world. I'm Mark Sugiyama from Eclectic Arts Media, based here in Seattle, Washington. And thank you so much for joining me on this Saturday, the 24th of January, 2026. And I'd like to thank Yi Loy for joining me yesterday. It was great getting a chance to talk to the sisters about their punk rock band and everything they have going on. And I will let people know that I am doing everything in my power to have them back because they let me know after we were done about something that they're really interested in. And it turns out we're like mutual geeky fans of this particular TV show. So I'm trying to get them to come back on. One, because I do have other questions related to their band, but two, we want to kind of geek out a little bit about this TV show. So hopefully they'll have time in their schedule to do that this coming week. But if you want to know what I have coming up, especially that particular live stream or any other ones, please follow me as Eclectic Arts Media, one word, on Instagram. That's where I post everything first, and then some of that information migrates over to other social media platforms. And if this is your first time joining me on my YouTube channel, if you do me a huge favor and please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. And if you're over on the Twitch side of things, if you could follow me over there. It's where I started all this virtual work back on May 22nd, 2020. So it'll be, it's about 5.5 years, or a little bit more than 5.5 years now, that I've been doing this. And if you really want to support what I do, this streaming service costs me money every month. There's a PayPal, me, and a Venmo link in every live stream description that I do. That's only if you're in a position to do so, but it goes directly into keeping Eclectic Arts Media alive and well and hopefully thriving. Everyone knows that I am not politically motivated when it comes to my live streams and things of that nature. I wanted to at least kind of mention, though, today it's been kind of a rough morning, I think, for a lot of people, if you've been paying attention to the news, depending on which side of things you fall on. And the only thing I'm going to say is that back when I started doing these interviews, which was, again, May 22nd, 2020, on the Inside Out virtual tour with Alice, which is a wonderful band from Los Angeles, if you go back to that headspace, we had the pandemic going on, we had Black Lives Matters, we had the White House, we had all kinds of things. And it was interesting. Once we got done with that tour, we came back together like a year afterward, like I think it was April of 2021 or something. And little did I know that the band was talking about that there was days, they were like, Mark, we just couldn't get ourselves up to do this. We're like, why are we doing these songs and, having DJs and having me on doing interviews? And then they're like, no, Mark's ready to go. He's been promoting this. We don't want to let him down. And then again, little did we know, I felt that way on certain days. Like, oh, man, I don't want to do this interview tonight. So, but Alice was so nice to let me, do this, be a part of their tour. I don't want to let them down. So if we had talked to each other, we probably would have found certain days like, man, I don't feel like doing this. I don't feel like doing this either. But we probably still would have pushed through. And the reason I bring this up is that we found back then that from the fans, their fan base, were telling us that we created a community. And some of these people I'm still in touch with today. They still follow what I do. And so it may have seemed insignificant to us at the time, but we were providing a distraction, an escape, different things just for entertainment purposes. And I learned and met a lot of new musicians, which was great and fun for me. So I only bring this up because I feel kind of that same way now, right now in the last month, and particularly this morning. So if you're feeling that way as well, just kind of know that you're not alone, and that I continue doing these things because it's something I'm passionate about, something I love doing. That includes getting out to seeing live performances. I'll be at a theater tonight for something to review officially. And so I'm doing the live stream interviews. I love doing these. So just wanted to put it out there that I'm human too. And I don't ever want to be doing live streams and people think, well, Mark hasn't mentioned anything about, some of the other things going on in the world. I can't help but mention it today. So here we go. My guest today is a wonderful actor that I've had the pleasure of seeing perform live on stage. Her wide-ranging skill set is always on display with any production she is a part of. Please welcome to the Eclectic Arts Media virtual studio, Miss Mary Guthrie.
Hello.
Hi, Mary. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am hanging in there. But I'm so glad to have you here, and thank you so much for taking the time this afternoon.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Cool. So I want to kind of start with, I've got different things, and you'll kind of find out through the course of my interviews that my mind's very, very random. So I kind of bounce from things and all this kind of stuff all over the place. But one thing I don't know why I didn't bring this up with, I don't know if I've ever asked any other actor that I've had, but I've always been curious about the understudy role and how that works, because to me it's like, well, if you're learning a role and then you may not step into it for maybe 2 weeks after it starts, kind of a thing. So can you kind of tell me the background for people, especially people out there that aren't familiar with understudy roles, like what that is, and then how do you prepare for that type of situation?
Oh, that's such a great question. I'm actually relatively new to this understudy space. So my first debut into that world was with Taproot this summer for Murder on the Links. And I have to say, I really loved how they structured the program. For us, we had a couple of days of table read work where we're really diving into the script. That particular one is a comedy murder mystery. So it was really helpful for us to piece those things together in the space and really start to understand the text, understand what we need the audience to hear, where are the red herrings, where are the clues, who's lying. So being an understudy, I think probably the first step is really to sink your teeth into the text and what is the story that's being told, because you're not going to have the luxury of working with the director and finding those beats and finding those moments in the same way. So I think you have to really bring your intellect and your engagement and intelligence to it to start with. I had the privilege of working with Candace Vance as our assistant director in that process. And so we were able to get on our feet and we had a lot of videos that we could watch and try to get used to blocking, get on our feet and try to just run it as many times as possible. I found in my experience, it's a lot of homework on your own where you're really drilling the lines, you're watching videos, you're trying to get the movement into your body. And then you're really hoping for the best. You get in the room with your understudies, but in that experience, we didn't have like a 1-to-1 ratio. So they're always missing someone on stage because people were doubling and doing different tracks. So yeah, I think for me, I got really fortunate that I got to do more than one performance of it as we got live. And yeah, your adrenaline is going to be going so crazy when you first get that chance. And yeah, so I mean, I think one of the things that was really beautiful about the process, which I didn't anticipate, was that I got to observe and watch and then just become a fan of the show and sort of fangirl out about the moments and the laughs and finding things that I could just enjoy as a theater goer. And then I get a chance to, tag in, okay, you go, give it a shot. And it was like double the joy for me because I had a chance to really observe it, watch it, like have a great time experiencing it, and then I got to live through it. So I mean, I would say that's kind of the secret, is just bring as much of yourself as you can, enjoy the ride as much as you can, work as hard as you can on your own, and then when you do get a chance to be up there, just really savor as much as you can.
Wow. Well, yeah, thanks for giving me that that backstory of being in that position. And I think something that I'd like to follow up with is that, so like you mentioned, you got the chance to perform more than once in that production. How long of it was from the opening to your first time on stage?
Oh, great question. We were working in the studio for most of it up until opening, and so we didn't actually have our full costumes on stage doing a walk of the space until the following Tuesday after opening weekend. And then for me actually doing my first performance, I think we had both understudy put in rehearsals, and then I got a chance to go on. So I had 2 full runs in costume on the stage before I had a chance to do it live. And then I got a chance to do it 3 times. So the first time, you know, you have so much energy and you're so hyped and you're nervous. The second time you can kind of like sink into it and relax. And for me, the third time was just a victory lap of like, let's go, let's have fun, enjoy it, you know?
Okay, cool. So it's it sounds like there's so much process already going on behind the scenes that by the time you got the call, you got the nod, like you said, the tap in, that you're pretty ready to go. Are you on the days when you weren't, like, let's say in between performance 1 and performance 2, when you got on stage again, are you like every day so kind of just kind of refreshing your head about the lines and things that you have to say, tomorrow, hey, so and so sick, we need you?
Yeah, I think every person has a different process, and I think every theater also has a different policy, and how much you prepare and how that goes is different. For me, for this particular show, because I was playing multiple characters, a lot of the challenge wasn't so much like memorizing the lines, but it's where does this piece of furniture go, and how does the traffic backstage work, and I don't need to bump into this person as they're rushing off stage. So a lot of it felt more like choreography that was really hard to like memorize behind the scenes unless you're actually there watching, unless you sort of know the flow. Especially the core cast got into a rhythm and they knew exactly what to anticipate. Okay, I need to stand here because he's going to be running through. So I think, yeah, you can prepare as much as you can mentally, but as soon as I'm off stage, I'm checking my notes and then, okay, I'm rushing off to the next thing. And so, yeah, I felt really lucky that the choreography was so specific and I had a chance to feel really comfortable with the complexity.
Okay. Yeah. That, again, for me, as somebody that's had the pleasure of seeing, I don't know how many productions at this point, I'm always amazed when sometimes, well, they'll usually announce if there's an understudy, but also sometimes maybe I don't catch that there was an understudy. And then at the end, I'll find out, oh, that role was somebody that just stepped into it. I'm like, that just always amazes me of like, especially if maybe it's been 2 weeks since the show opened and this is the first time getting in there and actually doing the role, or like you just mentioned, multiple roles depending on the character. And it's just like, how do you just go kind of from 0 to 60?
I mean, I'm still figuring it out and learning it myself. I think everybody's got their own rhythms, and I think every show is different. There's a different little ecosystem of how people interact with one another. I think for me, what I always try to do is just bring a very strong sense of play. And I constantly think, I'm so lucky I get to do this today. I'm so happy I get to do this. And that really just sort of helps. So even if you're nervous and you don't exactly know, okay, I've only done this one time, I think this is what I'm supposed to do. Just trust, yourself and go for it. And I can't imagine a situation where you wouldn't have a really lovely supportive cast, making sure that, you'll hit your mark and that they'll escort you, or I've heard shove with love if you're not quite in the right place. So luckily, I think that you have a really strong safety net in most cases.
Well, yeah, that's good. and it does make sense, again, from at least the different productions and different theater houses that I've been able to attend and watch and review things, that everyone's in it for the right reason. And I understand that we either rise or fall together. So if someone's coming in, we're going to do everything we can to make sure that this is as good as possible. And they probably understand too what it's like for that person in that role to come in, because they may have been there themselves in a different production.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't imagine having somebody who's just like, well, I'm not going to help you, or I'm not going to like.
Oh, not at all. And I think too, just even going through that experience and being able to be on stage with those folks, I felt my own expertise was growing just by having such strong scene partners. So it was really fun for me to just feel like, oh, I'm leveling up. This is great. And you can kind of turn your brain off and just be live in the moment, and you can react honestly, and you can listen, and you can always be surprised by the things that you're experiencing. So it was such a lovely experience. I enjoyed it so much more than I thought. I thought it would be a lot more stress. I thought I'd be a lot more unprepared. But it really was so lovely, and I would absolutely do it again.
Awesome. Yeah. It just kind of clicked in my head that it was Murder on the Links, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Because I interviewed Richard there at Taproot in person. So,
Mhm.
and what a he could have talked for hours if I had the time.
Oh man, that was he was such a fantastic scene partner. There was one time where he was interrogating me in a scene, and me as Mary, I was like, whoa, that's intense. And I actually forgot my line, and that never happens. And it took me a minute to be like, okay, I'm back. And I was like, I was like, okay, I'll tell you whatever you want, you know? So I love having those moments of genuine immersion and feeling lost in the moment. So that was fantastic.
Yeah, because if you're lost in the moment, then the audience is going to get lost in the whole thing as well. So that's awesome. I know I've said sometimes in my reviews, and definitely in some of these interviews, that if I start getting caught up in what's going on stage, that's when everything's working. Because if I feel just kind of disconnected from it, sometimes it's not anything to do with the direction or the performers or anything. It has to do with like the source material at times. But other times it's like, things just they're not clicking for whatever reason. But then I've also said at the same time, I can look over here and then I see someone's completely involved in the show. And so they're having a very different experience from me. So it's kind of like, I always have to remember that too. Just because it affected me one way doesn't mean it's affecting somebody else a different way, because it is. And I've also seen the flip side of it. I could be just raving about something. Oh, this is the best show I've ever seen. You got to go back and see it again. And then someone else said, really?
Yeah, and it's surprising even from a performer's perspective, because some of the quietest audiences, as you get in your head, you're like, oh man, they're really not getting these jokes, or you have this internal monologue, and then sometimes those are the audiences where they're the most touched by the performances and they have the nicest things to say. And then vice versa, you could have a really loud, really cheerful audience, and then they're like, oh, it wasn't for me, So I think that you never really know what the human experience is. So much of it comes down to carving out joy for yourself, and what can I enjoy. I actually was just having a conversation the other day where it was brought up that there was a study that was done, and I'm forgetting the details of the study, but they asked people to go participate in things they don't really enjoy, but they had a control group who just went to go do the thing, a group that was asked to notice 3 different things about it, and a group that was asked to notice 10 different things. And it was the group that was asked to notice 10 new things about the thing you don't like doing reported that they enjoyed it so much more. There was appreciation. There was something that they could take away that they hadn't thought about before. And I think it was like, okay, you're going to go to a museum, you're going to go to a heavy metal concert. It was things like that. And I always try to think about that both on stage and off, is like, okay, what's something new that I haven't seen before? What's something I'm learning in this moment? And how can I be more immersed? And what's something that's surprising me?
Oh, that's interesting. Thanks for sharing that. And see, now I'm going to go to that show tonight and start
try to notice 10 things. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's going to be hard because that's a theater. I'm going to Taproot.
Great! I was there last night for opening. You're in for a treat.
Okay, cool. I don't know. Well, with it being a world premiere, I don't know what to expect, and I'm not familiar with the story that it's based on. But I've said this many times to people, both virtually and in person, that's the theater around here that I've spent the most time at. So if any place that I know, yeah, and that was pure, really dumb luck that I ended up there. I'll make this really as short as I possibly can. I wasn't looking to cover plays or musical theater or any of what I consider the arts side in 2018. I was trying to secure an interview with one of the leads of Love Never Dies, the touring musical had come to town to the Paramount. And I'm like, oh, it'd be kind of interesting talking to one of those leads. And I won't go into that whole story because that's a whole separate thing that happened. But once I did that interview with that gal, I'm like, there's a lot of wonderful theaters around here. I just never get to any of them. So I remembered Taproot because I had covered a concert there in the Isaac Studio back in like March of 2018. So I'm like, oh, what about that place in Greenwood? So I'll go out there and reach out to their communication manager at the time, who's now with Fifth Avenue Theater. Hi, Isaiah. And he was nice enough to put me in at the end of a run, which was Lady Windermere's Fan. I remember that. And from there, I just started doing my own homework about like, so what's over here in Edmonds, because that's where I used to live at the time, and what's over here, and just started immersing myself in it. And then I feel that if I want to do it, just like what we're doing right now, if I want to learn and be able to be what I consider hopefully a decent reviewer, I want to talk to the people that do this art. They're the ones that are in the ground floor. They're the ones in the trenches. And I can have my opinion out because I'm not an actor. I don't have any kind of background, not even like, back in elementary school, I wasn't like a tree on stage or something. I was none of that stuff. But I'm a musician and a photographer and a writer. So it's like, I do have that artistic side, but not from the theater aspect. So it's been really, really educational talking to people, and people, oh, you're talking to a lot of new actors this year. I'm like, yeah, that was intentional. I said, I've seen people like Mary on stage. I don't know anything about them. We're connected on social media, but that's like you put out whatever you want to put out, just like what I do. But I don't know. We never had a conversation. So it's been really, really great getting a chance to talk to so many people that I've seen more than once. And we're going to talk about some of that other performances I've seen you in. Sure. Just adding to my educational foundation when it comes to theater. And for me, what I remember was the role that you did, again, I think it's multiple characters at As If Theater when you were in, the 39 Steps.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. 39 Steps. I got to see you there. So what was that experience like for you?
Oh my goodness. That was such a hilarious, wonderful just moment in time in my life. So I love all the ladies at As If, and getting to work with Terry and Cindy and Chris on that show. Our director, Chris Shea, was fantastic. And like, I think we had Seamus and Chandria and so many other wonderful people who are just sort of coming together to, our challenge was, can we make each other laugh? Can we tell this story? Can we be ridiculous? And for me, it was actually, I will throw my whole body into physical comedy. I will do anything for the bit and for the laugh. And having some of these characters that are more like the straight characters, and sometimes not necessarily the ones who get to have the big, physical moments, I actually had to pull back and try to like make sure, okay, I have to like volley and make sure that my scene partner is gonna get the punchline. And for me, that experience was just one of my most favorite that I've ever had, just because every night we just show up with so much joy. We're ready to play. It really felt like we were kids who, we get to do this every night again. Yay. And when things go wrong in that show, it's even better. When something breaks, Chris fell off the stage one night and we had to like have a conversation where we're not even in the same scene anymore. And, hey, what are you doing down there? And Terry had, wardrobe malfunctions, and Cindy made Chris break one night. And I just remember like the laughs just getting bigger and bigger and longer and longer. And when you have a chance to just be in that environment in that moment, you just have to savor every second because it's so fun.
I love hearing like the behind the scenes stories from somebody that was a part of a production that I saw. And I've mentioned this from other live streams, that the first performance is never like the last performance in the show. I mean, some things happen that aren't planned and other things are intentional. Say, hey, this really worked, so let's kind of make sure that we put this back in there tomorrow night. And that particular show, for people that aren't familiar with it, there's so much comedy in it. And like you said, there's so many different things that you're doing as characters. Either you have to be the straight person, or you have to be the over the top person. There's physical comedy in it. Mm-hmm. And the fact that all of you came to play really makes it work.
Yeah, it was great. And I think too, like, as we found brand new things that we didn't anticipate going wrong, there was a dummy that was thrown off on stage and it was in the path, and Chris picked it up and tossed it. And that was a huge laugh. Something fell off of the, like the banister on the railing came off during a scene, and then you have to like hold it and like do something with it. And then later on, you're like checking all the banisters every time you go onto the scene, and just laughs like that you just don't expect. Those are the things that it's just live theater, and you really have a chance to, like, those are the things I go back and remember and be like, oh, that was so spontaneous and so great to see.
Yeah, and that's, I think, for people, again, I've been trying to do not just the interviews with local artists here, but just interviews, period. Hopefully people start taking away from this to wherever you're living, get out to a show. If it's theater, if it's concerts, if it's a poetry slam, if it's something artistic, it's so easy to say, yeah, I'd like to do this, and then they don't end up doing it. I know so many people, including myself at times, but it's like, just take that one step. There's ways around the barrier. If it's a money issue, there's sliding scale, there's pay what you can, there's buy one, get one, there's ways to do it. If you're going to community theater, semi-professional things, you don't have to be paying $200 to go see some huge musical come into town. You can if you can afford it, but you can see something that might cost you $20 that can be equally as good. That's the thing I keep trying to tell people, is that if you need the glitz and glam, try to get that out of your head, because the quality is still there from any production if they're doing it right, in my opinion. And so they're just missing out on so many opportunities. So again, for folks out there, hopefully you take away one of the things is that try to see what's going around in your town. There's something. I'm almost getting, unless you're like in some rural town that you have to drive 2 hours to get someplace. But outside of that, you should be able to find something that might be of interest to you.
Absolutely. And there's something that is very special about the human interaction in a live space. And I think why I'm so drawn to theater is that you get an opportunity to be storytelling to the people that are in front of you in that room. And there is some, energy, and there's some really wonderful sort of magical moments that can never be created again. It's this moment in time with these individuals in this space. And that is something that it's difficult to describe. It's one of those things you just have to experience and feel. And live theater, a lot, especially with comedies, the people on stage fuel from the energy that they're getting, and things will organically evolve and change. I mean, improv shows are a great example. They take suggestions from the audience, and I think almost every live performance has a little bit of that, where it is this symbiotic relationship that we all need each other. So that's really beautiful, and it's such a great thing. And I do a lot of shows every year, and so I'm in rehearsal or I'm in a theater, but I was like counting. I think even though I was in 5 shows with all the rehearsals, I still saw like 46 shows last year, just because I can't get enough. I just want to go support my friends and have that experience. Yeah.
Wow, that's a huge number.
It's a lot. I know. I just counted the other day. I was like, is this right? This is so many. Yeah.
That's awesome, though, that that you're that supportive and that into it, and you want to see these shows, you want to see what the other people are doing, and seeing the different theaters, and just being a part of that scene. It's just like being a musician, being a part of the music scene. Yeah, you're out there. I have a friend that was starting a business. This was like a few years ago, and he was trying to get into the local music scene. And he's like, so Mark, what do you think of these ideas? And I said, those ideas are fine, but they're all secondary to me. So the first thing you need to do, you actually need to get out to shows. You need to physically be there. So if it's going to be a singer-songwriter night at the Sunset, if it's going to be a rock thing at Numos or at the Showbox or what have you, you need to actually be out there consistently. And then that's how people are going to start to, put a name to a face, and they're going to start to understand who you are. And then once you get your first clients, then they can start referring you just from word of mouth. Oh yeah, I met him at this show. He was here, 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 and here. Instead of you being like in your office somewhere where you're trying to do it from a computer, that's all secondary. Yeah. And he's like, so how many shows do you think I need to go to? I said, you'll know. So once you're out there, I can't tell you how many shows you need to do based on your schedule, but it's like, you got to at least start getting out there, start doing it. I used to play music around town in a duo, just playing cover tunes. And what you just said, what you just said was exactly what happened. Every single gig that we had was different, depending on how we were, how the audience was, just kind of the vibe in the room that we're in. And sometimes it worked out much better than I ever thought. It's like, oh, there's only 10 people here today. We didn't approach it that way. So no, we're still going to have fun. We're still going to do our shows. We're still going to, maybe we'll mix up the set a little bit more because it feels a little bit looser in here. But then if we're playing like a kind of a loud, rowdy brewery on a Saturday, then it's like, okay, the set list needs to kind of fit this, because our ballads aren't going to really work here, because you won't be able to hear us very well. And sometimes those audiences were really, really fun, or sometimes they're very, very difficult.
Sure.
Especially when alcohol's involved. People are always going to blurt out stuff. Hey, play this, play that, play the other thing. And luckily, in some cases, I might know some riffs to a song. I was the guitar player in our duo, but sometimes I don't have a clue how to play any of these things. And then my singer used to kind of default to me to kind of have the banter in between songs. So I'm like, well, crap, what am I going to say about this? I don't know. But those memories are, even the ones that weren't so good, they were things that that stick out in my head, of like that whole time of when we were doing all these songs and all these kind of things. Yeah, remember when we did that? Yeah, remember when we did that? And that one guy did this. It still adds into the whole experience of being a live performer, a live artist. And I know for a fact I didn't get out to 46 concerts when I was doing that. So my hat's off to you. Holy crap! I don't even think I reviewed 46.
I was trying to figure out like how is all that possible? I was like, the amount of evenings where I am not at home, I'm in some other theater space, is like almost every single day of the year. And I was like, that's crazy when you think about the fact that I'm always wanting to experience live theater. And it's the storytelling for me. I love being part of it, but also just absorbing it and hearing it and cheering on my friends. And there's so many wonderful people who I'm just admirers of, who I haven't really ever met, or maybe we'll see each other in audition. But there is this sense, at least for me, of community and friendship. And even if people are relatively strangers, I'm still so enthusiastic about just seeing good art and seeing people perform. And acting is hard, and it takes a lot of courage to go out there and give it a shot. And people who continue to do it and get better and better, it's my favorite thing to see an actor get stronger and to see them do some new role I've never seen them do before, and then just be blown away. I was like, wow, I didn't know that was something that you had in there. I'm so happy to see that.
That's such a positive, healthy attitude that you have, regarding that. And even for me, like on the outer circle part of it, I don't really know the media around here. It's really interesting. I got a chance to do this thing. They had a media event for Lion King when it was here.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I've only been invited to one other one, which was before Phantom of the Opera in 2018. So I finally got a chance to see who are these other people that are reviewing these shows. Mm-hmm. Some of them I might know them just through social media, but I've never actually met them or again have a conversation. But there they had us all like it was like being back in school. We're all in a circle, and then they started going through the row. Okay, so and so, no, Eclectic Arts Media, Mark, I'm right here. That kind of thing. And then looking around, it was cool because like I got to see one of the concert photographers that I know. She was there, and I hadn't seen her in a couple of years. So she was photographing the event for Seattle Refined. And then I saw some local news people. It's like, oh, that's kind of cool. I'm in the same space as these people. But then other people, I'm like, who are you? And then what do you do? And then we got put into groups of 3. And so one of the people in my group, we didn't know each other at all. So we're just kind of talking, I do this, I do that, and I cover these things. And were you here for this? And super nice lady. And it was just great to know that, so how long have you been coming here? I think she's been coming there longer than I had to cover the show. So I'm like, how is it that I haven't seen you? It's just, we just didn't know who to look for at the time. Right. And the performance.
You guys are wearing signs,
Yeah. And luckily that night when we did the performance that the media were reviewing on the same day, I was waiting in line at intermission with my mom. She was going to use the restroom. And there's the gal right behind her that I was at the media thing with in the morning. Saying, oh, hey. And she said, this is my daughter that I was talking about this morning and everything. And you start feeling, that sense of community of what you're doing. And again, I've had the pleasure of meeting and interviewing a lot of the actors around town, some of the other creators behind the scenes. And so if I see them, it's kind of like, oh, yeah, there's Mark. It's not just this person or this thing that they read about, or again, if they're looking at social media, they only get like a certain side of me kind of a thing. And maybe they like it, maybe they don't, I don't know. But at least they have a better idea in their head. It's like, oh, okay, so when they're reading this review, I did that interview with that guy like a year ago, and this is how the impression he made on me. So I'm going to look at this review knowing that in their head. It's a little different than if you just don't know anything. Mm-hmm. And I try to keep my reviews as positive as possible. I've talked about this a few times during these interviews this month. But if something isn't working for me, I do have to point it out. It's part of the job. But I've never been to a point of wanting to slam somebody because I'm a fellow creative. Again, I've been on a stage before. I've been heckled before. I know what that feels like. It doesn't feel good. I don't want to read about something saying, that guitar player, man, he just sucked. He was this terrible. Why is he performing? I don't want to ever be that person doing that to somebody else. But if they're kind of coming up short, and particularly on the music end of things, I've attended musicals. Mm-hmm. And, if you're flat, I'm sorry, I have to mention something about this. If you're playing a guitar and you're strumming stuff and there's some intonation issues with your neck on your fretboard, you know, I would hope if it was me, I would hope somebody would say something to me in a positive way or a constructive way. So I'm like, oh, really? It doesn't sound this good? Yeah, then I'm going to go try to fix it so I don't embarrass myself the next time I'm playing in front of people. But I kind of went off on a whole weird tangent there.
Well, no, I mean, I think that there is some humanity to the purpose of having reviewers. I mean, on the one hand, of course, you want to connect to the story, you want to connect to the art that's being offered, and I think that there is that sense of offering some transparency and honesty too to try to help strengthen the community. I mean, I don't think anybody wants to be criticized exactly, but I think that it's one of those art forms where you can sort of nudge and say, hey, you know, you're just a couple clicks away from excellence. You know, it was already really good. The couple of small adjustments here, and wow, you're really cooking with gas. You know, and so I think there is something about that being an encouraging art form and something that's intended to bring people together. So I think that there's a lot to that.
Well, I appreciate that. I think other reviewers or media people would appreciate that too. And I usually let people know when I'm sending my link via email to the publicist or the artistic director about, hey, I'm just letting you know this one didn't quite work for me, but you know, there's still things that I liked about it. It's pretty rare when I would see a production where I'm like, I can't hang my hat on any aspect of this. I mean, that I actually can't think of one. And even if, again, it could have been something that this show just didn't really connect with me at all, but there's still something about that or the costume design or the lighting design or something was like, wow, that really was something different. Like you were talking about earlier about the 10 new things. I am always looking for something because I know in a reviewing capacity, just like tonight when I'm at Taproot, I'm like, okay, so is this thing working for me? And also if it's not, why? I try to figure that out. Because I don't want to say, yeah, this wasn't any good. Well, that doesn't help anybody. It's like, what wasn't working?
It needs to have specificity, right, for it to be meaningful. Yeah, I think there's a lot, and I often sometimes will go into shows completely blind, like on purpose, like not knowing what it's going to be, because I want to be touched by the experience, and I want to understand, you know, is the intention actually effective? Versus like if I know every detail about how this thing got put together, I'm coming in with a different kind of experience because then I'm like rooting for them and being like, ooh, I wonder how that worked out. And I have a phrase that I use a lot. And I think as long as I can tell people are really trying and they're putting their heart into it, I have so many things that I can be a fan of. So I call it the give a shit factor. If your give a shit factor is high, even if it's not my preference, there's still a lot of things that I can enjoy. It's for me, if people are not happy to be there, if it feels like work to them, if there's something that sort of you can tell that it's bringing the energy of other people down, or if people don't have that integrity of being able to like bring people together, that for me are the areas where I'm like, okay, this is the space to work on and trying to you know, improve. Versus, you know, if people are giving it their all and giving it their best, hey, that's growth, that's progress. You know, you can enjoy and have a good time with people who are willing to do that kind of work, you know.
It's a really good point. I don't know how many times I've seen, particularly on the music side, musicians that are clearly they're really having a ball. They're really giving everything they can to entertain, to play.
It's contagious, yeah.
Yeah, and you can tell it's like, you know what, they're not just phoning it in. They're not just kind of like, it's just another gig, or I don't want to be here. I'd rather be home, you know, binge watching something. And yeah, though I would agree with that. That if you're giving a shit, then it really does show, because people pick up on that kind of thing. And if you come up a little bit short, you come up a little bit short, but at least you're trying and you're doing what you can. Versus the person that could maybe knock it out of the park, but they're choosing not to.
Yeah. Exactly. And for me, one of the things that I noticed too, even last year, I was going through some pretty tough times. There were some things in my personal life and with work and different things. You know, I show up to rehearsal sometimes and I'm like, oh, this was a day, or man, I'm really feeling it today. I'm not in the best mood. I'm feeling, just kind of icky walking in the door. And I'm not exaggerating. Within 15 minutes of every rehearsal that I've ever been to, that feeling has been replaced by this sense of, okay, I'm here with these people. Let's work, let's play, let's have fun. And there's something very transformative about being in a community of people who want to do work together. And I think about theater being an art form where it's about collaboration. I mean, you can have a one-woman show, sure, but you still have to have lights and sound. And there's so many other things that you can't do it by yourself. And so by building that community and really immersing yourself and trying hard to be present for the people you're around, it's so healing. There's never been a rehearsal that I've left in those moments being like, man, I wish I hadn't done that. And so it's really beautiful in my mind. So
that's another great point. When people are they can, and they probably, most people that I've met that are artistic have a pretty high level of empathy to them.
Yeah.
They can kind of pick up on, hey, so-and-so's having a rough day, whatever's going on in their life is going on, but we're here to kind of pick that up, because guess what? Tomorrow it might be you, and it might be you, and it might be you. I know what that's like, and I've been really fortunate with one of my Muggle jobs that our team was so so strong that way that one guy was really going through it with his family, and we always kind of reassured him, and he was one of our kind of pillars because he was older. We looked up to him, so like when he was having problems, we're like, we're all going to rally around you, man. So we got you. We can take stuff off your plate.
Absolutely.
We can do what we can do over here, and because I know you would do the exact same thing for me if the roles were reversed. So it's that's great to hear that, if you're having a day or having just, a week, a month, a year, that you can walk into those spaces and feel better once you walk out of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's not to say every rehearsal is going to be perfect or that it's always like sunshine and rainbows, but I do think that a lot of it is what you bring to it and what you're willing to show up and do. And then, there are certainly, just like any job, like with my own day job or with rehearsal, there's days where you're like, okay, that was hard. Ugh, this doesn't feel good. I'm in a new area outside of my comfort zone. What do I do? So, I mean, those are part of it as well. And I think having that repetition of knowing you'll get through it, you're still going to have an opening night. Everything's going to work itself out. And just kind of having that experience over and over again really reminds you that you're capable, that you're strong, that things are going to be fine. And, emotions are like weather. They're going to come and go, and, you can't get fixated in one for too long. And you just have to continue moving forward.
Absolutely. I can use myself again for the beginning of these these virtual interviews back on, again, May 22nd, 2012. It's burned in my head because I was pretty mortified about doing that first interview on that tour. Here we are again during the pandemic and all this other kind of craziness going on in the world. I'm not tech oriented, so I didn't understand how this whole thing was going to work. I'm working with a band that I really look up to and respect, and they invited me to open up their tour, which ended up being 59 shows on their tour. And so I kind of felt like I've got all these eyes on me to be, you're the front runner, Mark. At 7 o'clock, you're going to go live. You're going to have a 30-minute interview with whoever guest you decided to invite. And, basically don't F this up. And I was nervous beyond belief. I didn't sleep well that night. I remember that I was rehearsing things way too much in hindsight. But the more I did them, the more I kind of critiqued my own work. I talked to people that I'd interviewed later. It's like, hey, what did you think about this? And they would tell me about that one part when you did this, Mark, that was pretty funny. And you need to do more of that, because it was more like the person that we know. Don't do the stuff that was like, we didn't know who Mark was when you started talking to us for the first 10 minutes. I'm like, really? I was working so hard to try to be like this host. And they're like, no, get rid of that. Don't be that person. Be the person you are, and trust us. It's going to work so much better. And so I just started doing that. And then, again, technically trying to get better with things. And but even now, I never know. Like, I can use you as an example. Again, we haven't had a discussion. So before you join me backstage, I don't know exactly what you're going to be like. You don't know what I'm going to be like. You might be like, is this going to be a good interview? Is this going to be like, really awkward? Is he going to be a jerk? You just never know what you're going to get.
I'm going to be the worst one.
Yeah.
That's my goal every time.
So I definitely feel more comfortable than I did 5.5 years ago, but I'm still not 100% comfortable until I'm actually doing it. It's just kind of that whole process of getting in there. Why do I do this? I love doing it. I'm infinitely curious about people. I don't think that will ever change.
Yes,
and then getting a chance to getting a chance to know people again out here in the community. And again, next time I get to see you on stage, then it'll be like, I have a little bit more information going around. Clearly, I'm still looking at how the production is and the role and the acting and all that, but there's those other pieces that weren't there before. So that's been really great. And I want to see that, hi, Josiah. I see that Josiah has a question for Mary. Are there any writing projects you have been working on that you'd like to stage?
Oh, well, hello, Josiah. Great question. I am working on writing. So I'm still a baby writer. I'm brand new. I actually, with As If, it was my first time ever attempting to like throw something together for their quickies. So they do that little festival over the summer where you can write a 10-pager. So I've written a couple of those at this point, and I really love sketch comedy. So I'm working on a couple of smaller projects just that bring me joy. There's one right now that's sort of a parody of Robin Hood that I'm trying to work on. So I think that could be really great. And yeah, honestly, I just want to get more people around just to read funny things as a group and just get inspired. One of the things that I do on my phone, I have a list of just things that I find funny, like little inside jokes. Probably every day, I'm probably writing down 2 or 3 things, just like little earworms that I hear, like overheard conversation snippets or something that make me laugh. And then a lot of times I'll just go to that list and say, okay, I'm going to cherry pick a few things and like I'm going to make a scene out of that. So that's the kind of writing that I do, but I'm still very new to it, but I'm hoping to get more. And then I guess the other thing I'll say too is working on Jurassic Parking Lot over the summer. It was such a fun environment being with people like Mark Sugiyama because you have your baseline script, but then at a certain point you kind of just raise your hand and you go, hey, I have an idea, or I have a Pepsi challenge, and can I throw this joke in the mix and let's see if it works. And so when I'm writing, that's sort of my energy. So I'll probably get a big chunk of writing done, and then I'll bring in my talented friends and be like, okay, help me make this better.
That's very cool, and I love the fact that you're diving into the comedy side of things. That to me is always fascinating. I love watching stand-up comedy and other kind of things because to me it's like I don't know how they come up with some of this stuff, especially the ones that are like on what I consider like an elite level, that they're writing bits, Mark. You know, they're coming up with this stuff and they're rehearsing it and they're trying to figure what works. At the beginning of this, I'll plant this here, here, and here.
Mhm.
This comes out over here, and then if you're doing a comedic piece, then it's like, some of it's going to work for some people depending on your sense of humor, and other people
Right.
it's gonna be like,
They don't all land. You try.
But we definitely could, in my opinion, we could always use more laughter in the world. So that's great that you're working on that kind of thing. Hopefully you go get a chance to see it, staged somewhere sometime.
Yes, I'm learning. I'm also relatively new to directing. We directed Treasure Island at Valley Center Stage last year, Chris Clark and I, and then we're going to be directing Murder on the Nile coming up in the summer. And I think that having kind of those experiences and kind of coupling it with these writing endeavors, it's really energized me into thinking about what would it be like to just produce work that I find fun and with people I really love being around. How can we get together and make something brand new that's never been done before and just share that joy with the world? And hopefully it resonates, hopefully people find it funny and we get butts and seats. But so I'm learning how to produce shows, and I'm learning just kind of how to do it. I love acting. That's my number one joy, but I also think that there's other storytelling pieces that as I'm evolving and learning, it's really drawing me in also. Mhm.
Interesting. That sounds like maybe down the road there's a theater company in your
That would be great. Yeah.
you're
Fantastic.
headed.
I know we'd have to work in dinosaurs pretty much in every show somehow, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if, like you said, you love acting, but then you're writing, producing, directing. That sounds like you're
Yeah, I'm
gonna
starting, I think that one of the key signs of being an artist is that you're just willing to try something new. And something that I learned from a really young age is never be ashamed of being the worst one in the room. And actually that's quite a treat. Like, what a joy. If you're the worst one in the room, look what you get to learn. And so I've been very lucky that my embarrassment factor is pretty low. Like, it takes a lot to embarrass me, so I don't really mind giving something a shot and being bad at it. Singing is a little different, so like I'm very vulnerable about singing, so I'm trying to learn. But yeah, so my dad is an engineer, my mom is an artist, and so I have a very bifurcated life with like science and theater. And so I think what those things have in common though is there's always this sense of curiosity and what can we learn and how can we be better and how are you different than you were yesterday. And so it just keeps me motivated to let's try new things and let's see how it goes.
Well, that's cool. You have, I mean, that's actually a really good segue about. So, when did you have an interest in acting, and like, how far back does this go?
Oh, great question. I actually was a teenager before I really gave it much thought. So I know a lot of my friends are like, "Oh, I was acting since I was 3 years old." I was in high school. I've always been very science minded. I loved chemistry, science Olympiad. I was a big geek. And I found myself really being compelled to my friends who were quite funny. And I saw that they auditioned for the Honor Theaters program. I had never acted a day in my life. I did a monologue from Our Town terribly, bombed my audition, but the director was so sweet. They were like, you know what, why don't you come into our intro class and let's show you some of the basics. And I think I was about 14, and I just acted very poorly for a very long time, being like, oh, I'll figure it out. I don't know how to project. I don't know how to do any of these things. But I was fearless and I didn't mind going in and giving it a shot. So in high school, I got really involved, was, doing science Olympiad until like 5 p.m., hopping into rehearsal and then going to school the next day. So that's just kind of been my life ever since. And luckily got very involved in community theater. It's been a really lovely space for me.
Wow. Now, so with that timeline, when did you come out to the Northwest?
Oh, yes. I moved out here in 2016, so about 10 years ago. Yeah, so I didn't start auditioning in the area right away. I was working with a job where there was some potential for travel, so I didn't even really explore much. I started auditioning and looking into theater around 2019. Got cast in a couple of shows, and then immediately pandemic happened. So then, yeah, the majority of what I've been doing has been post-pandemic, and I've been very fortunate that I tend to work on 4 to 6 shows a year. So it's been really lovely and such wonderful people. And Seattle is such an arts town. It's fantastic.
Okay, cool. So that's, wow. 2019 for auditioning, and then, yeah, pandemic time.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, because I know you've been at the Phoenix and you've been at Second Story Rep, and you've been, I'm sure there's a bunch of other ones I'm missing. But that's, and you've already said that, you don't mind being the worst one in the room, because then there's so much area to grow. So does that also mean that it translates, I'm assuming, to your auditioning process, that it doesn't bother you when you have to get up there and do a monologue or do an audition?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I think there is something to the fact that it is, if you can look at it as kind of a brutal situation, that you get up there, you be vulnerable, and then people are going to say, no, thanks. And then you move on. So there's a little bit of like, oh gosh, that could be quite crushing if you think of it that way. But there is a sense of resilience and strength that you have of being able to, self-soothe and talk to yourself in a positive way if you just weren't what they were looking for whatever reason. And of course, if there's things, if you absolutely bomb and you do terrible, you'll learn from next time. Like, okay, I know now not to wear those shoes so I don't trip and fall on my face. So there is a lot to that. And, in my day job, I work in biotech, and I think there's a lot to this sense of like being fearless in theater and this uncomfortable space gives me a lot of confidence and courage in my day job, knowing that, you know what, like I can give this a shot. And if it's not perfect, that's okay. I will learn and I will evolve, and I don't have to have all the answers. I don't have to be perfect. And, we're human beings doing the best we can. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was trying to figure out a way to say this early on, because you have such a high vocabulary and you speak so well, and then you just mentioned what you do for your muggle job. So I'm like, oh, okay.
I love that phrase.
I can't take credit for that. I was interviewing a dancer from Las Vegas, and she talked about her muggle job. And I'm like, oh, I got to remember that.
Yeah, I'm stealing it now too. Fantastic.
As we get kind of close to winding this down, speaking of that type of thing, looking through your social media, you seem to have like such an interest in like geeky things, or Comic-Con kind of things.
Absolutely, yeah.
And maybe cosplay and all that. So has that been something like a lifelong interest and love and hobby?
Oh, great question. So I've always been a giant geek, very loud colors, big earrings, love dinosaurs and movie quotes. And so my personality has always been this. It wasn't until like 3 years ago, I went to my very first Comic-Con, and I was like, this is my mothership. Like, I belong here. I love this. And so I do Comic-Con and Ren Fair. Your girl loves costumes. So I just want to dress up, and I want to be in an environment of people who are just having fun. And I think when you go to conventions, for me, it's almost like the best example of humanity. It's a bunch of people who are usually introverted, soft-spoken people, for a huge chunk of them, who are coming together to mutually appreciate something that like maybe broadly is not like recognized as being cool or fun. But when everybody's all together, there's this sense of confidence and camaraderie and joy that I just really, really love. And you get to wear silly things, and I look forward to it. So yeah, cosplay is I'm new to it, but I love it. Yeah, I'm learning how to sew, so I'm getting there. Yeah.
So I was going to say, I mean, yeah, if you're doing cosplay, learning to sew, that's also going to work over to your potential theater company.
Yeah,
down the
absolutely. One of my favorite costumers, Amy Hoffman, we were chatting recently. We're going to go to Comic-Con and we're trying to figure out like, oh, are we going to do these matching outfits? And I'm like, can you help me sew a skirt? I don't know how to do it. So we're going to figure that out.
Are you somebody that's going to be going to Comic-Con like X amount of days or just one day?
Oh
or-
yeah, all four. Yeah. Now that I know, now that I understand, this has been there for me this whole time. I'm like, oh, I gotta go. Yeah.
Okay, so then that begs the question: are you going to have a different outfit for every day then?
Absolutely, yes. My big one that's sort of well, I have two. I'm doing Harley Quinn from Birds of Prey with like the crazy jacket, but that one's kind of easy. You just throw stuff on. The one that I'm making is I'm going to be Groot, and that one's kind of tough because I'm doing like the tree, and I'm going to have the lights and trying to figure out how to do that with very limited sewing skills. So we'll see how it turns out.
Oh, that sounds really fun. I've been to Emerald City. I think it's only been once actually, but I've been to other Comic Cons. I've been to Crypticon, the horror one.
Cool.
So I do know that culture. I used to work at Digipen Institute of Technology at one point, and that whole school is about video game development basically. So if you have any interest in video games and how they're made, people go there to learn how to do it. So of course they're all like introverted, socially awkward, everything you can think of. They buy their VIP passes for all 4 days for Comic-Con. They're starting to plan out all their cosplays months in advance and the whole 9 yards. And so that was the only thing that actually helped me connect with those folks, is that I'm not to that level, but I have some piece of that in me. So I was definitely into those kind of things, because they could have been talking to somebody and I would have just went like right over my head. Like, I don't know what the heck you're talking about with this video game or this comic book or this anime or this manga.
I mean, yeah, there's so many, nerddoms, geekdoms that you can go down, and there's so much content out there now, which is also very different from, let's say 10 years ago, because there's so many streaming services and online avenues. So some of the content, I'm like, I've never heard of this before. So there's also that sense of discovery. And when you find somebody who's really passionate about something you've never heard of, it's always kind of an interesting conversation to be like, yeah, show me more about that. Tell me more. What can I learn? Yeah.
Yeah, I found that, like, at least with Crypticon more than anything, some of those guys, I mean, they know horror, then I will never ever come close to the level that they know it. And some of them, and they're perfectly fine with that. They want to just kind of geek out and talk about it and everything.
Yeah.
And then there's this small factor that kind of like try to hold it over you a little bit, almost like a gatekeeper kind of a thing. And
There's
like,
like a pride to, yeah.
yeah, like, well, you haven't been into it as long as I have, and you haven't seen this, and you haven't been. It's like, you know what? Everyone starts somewhere. And so the band I was just talking and interviewing yesterday, they kind of have been facing some of that kind of stuff because they're a punk band, and so some of the old punk heads who are in their 50s and 60s, like, well, that's not what punk is, and that's not what punk is, and that is like. They're doing what they love. They're playing music and they're learning their instruments and they're playing things without backing tracks and auto tune and all the stuff that I can't stand. So it's like, just how about being encouraging that they're actually doing something from bands that you like? Yeah, and like you were saying, they're getting out there and they're doing it, and they're not afraid to fall on their face. They just know that means there's not much higher of a ceiling to go.
Yeah, and skill sets are an evolving thing all the time. So people, you have to start off, you have to be willing to be embarrassed to try something new. And then even still, like I was thinking about cosplay. I went to the Star Wars Night at the Mariners game, and I kind of had this idea that everybody was dressing up like Star Wars characters. There were very few, very few of us. But I had my helmet, I had the whole thing, and some of the people I was with, they're like, "Are you sure you want to wear all that?" And very supportive, but just I was a little bit like, okay, are people going to be gawking at me? How's this going to go? And yes, but most of the time it was like smiles and people like, oh, cool, oh, good. So I think if you're looking for it and you're confident in yourself and you just, you kind of have to tune out what you're worried about and just go do the thing that you want to do because you like to do it, you're going to be surprised, hopefully, with the joy that you're going to be able to fulfill for yourself. So.
Yeah, I agree, and I think I wasn't doing cosplay, but back in the ALCS in 2001 when we were playing the Yankees, they were doing this thing where they're doing face painting on fans before the
yeah,
game, and so I'm like, I don't know. There's some part of me that's just like, yeah, I'll give this a shot, because we were walking past this station and they're like, we need to do a baseball head, and hey man, you want to do it because you're bald? And I'm like, what's a baseball head? And so we're gonna paint up your entire head and your face and everything like a baseball. And we'll put different players' names on it, and numbers, and all this kind of stuff. And I have an older brother who's who, if you'd asked him to do that, you couldn't pay him to do that kind of thing. There's no way.
Family too.
Yeah, and I'm like thinking there, and my mom's with me, and I'm like, yeah, no, why not? Okay. So
Yeah.
I'm one of maybe, I don't think I saw any other baseball heads in that stadium.
Hey, you're satisfying a niche.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'll do it, and I don't know how many people wanted pictures with me. It's the only time I ever got a free beer, and it wasn't from a fan; it was from a vendor. When I walked up there, and he's like, "Man, I got to give you this one."
The dedication is obvious, yeah.
Yeah, and I still distinctly remember this. That we lost that game, and we're walking out of the stadium to our car, and people still wanted pictures with me.
Isn't that lovely?
So yeah, that whole kind of being secure with who you are and what you do, and that you're just going to go up there and kind of do it, and people react whichever way they're going to react. Like, if it's good, that's great. If it's bad, whatever. But I'm still going to do it.
Exactly.
Same type of thing. So, and I'm thinking. So I've also covered some of the when they do like the Star Wars films, and they have the live score at Benaroya Hall with the Seattle Symphony.
Yes.
I've definitely seen people in cosplay, I think, at every single one that I've been to. And I love that. I wish more people would do it.
Me too. I would live in cosplay every day of my life if I had enough of it. Yeah. I have a lot of earrings. I collect earrings. I've got like over 600 pairs, and so many of them are like pop culture or food or something like outrageous or like silly. And it's just, it's just part of me expressing myself and having fun. And, are they like formal, or are they like, you could always critique or like have an opinion that maybe this is like not the most professional thing, or, how are you going to be perceived by being this way? But at the end of the day, I think most of the time people are responding to the joy you're radiating and the confidence you bring by being yourself, that all those secondary things are more like societal pressure or, internal saboteurs that, you're a little self-conscious about something and you want to be liked. And I think the more that you can like yourself, that voice gets smaller and smaller because it doesn't matter,
That is really, really well said. And for the people that are out there that maybe they feel like they're kind of the oddball in their circle of people, or just in their town or wherever they go, it's like, you know what? Keep doing what makes you happy. Keep doing that thing. If you can imagine this, back in high school, I used to have really long hair. I was totally a metalhead, and I went to a school over in the suburbs here of Seattle, and we were ridiculed most of the time in our student body, and there was things that I'm not going to change who I am and what I do. So this is why I am. The weird aspect that I had is that the other people that look like me, unfortunately, a lot of them were burnouts, and they were skipping class and smoking cigarettes and doing that kind of stuff. I was studious, so I looked one way, but then I had this other side to me, because there's no way my parents were going to allow me to like bomb in school. But it all came down to like really kind of defining who I am now, all these years later, that I still kind of have that aspect of, I don't call it a chip on my shoulder, but definitely kind of knowing who I am. And if you don't like it, I don't give a shit.
I understand that. There's definitely a healthy sense of self-identity that I think is tough. I mean, and I appreciated your intro at the beginning of this too, that like with everything going on in the world, there's so much heaviness, there's so much pain and hatred and judgment, and there's so many things that like if you spiral and you let that kind of drag you down, which we all do sometimes, the thing to get yourself back up again is finding things that bring joy. It's the storytelling, it's comedy, it's connecting with human beings. It's, for me, I have this sort of rule of thumb that's like, if 5-year-old Mary likes it, let's go, let's do it. I have little plastic dinosaurs that I give out all the time for like my cast gifts. And, if I'm in like I don't know, cafe or something and the barista's like having a hard day, I'm like, here's a dinosaur, so just trying to just share joy as best you can. And those little moments are the things that really get us out of those really heavy trenches that we sometimes find ourselves in. And those are the things that inspire us to be kind to one another and to work for human rights and to try to right these big, heavy wrongs in the world. But it all starts with our conversations with ourselves first, to know that we can do it. We're making a difference. We have what we need within ourselves. And if you can start there, then you can impact other people around you in a positive way.
Again, well said. You've had so many things that I can't add anything else to that other than that. Sometimes, like the show that I'm going to tonight that you saw last night,
yes, yeah.
It has a different meaning to me, or a different importance to me today, because I need it more than on average, because to help balance out what is going on. That once I'm there, I never leave the theater. Even if I didn't like the show, I never leave the theater in that experience of like, well, that sucked. It's not like that for me. Just like going to a concert. People always ask me all the time, because I've been going to concerts since I was 9 years old. Say, Mark, you must have saw some pretty shitty concerts at some point. And I'm like, not really. Maybe some bands maybe weren't as good as others, but again, that experience is what I love. Just being in that live environment and a communal thing, and we're all there typically for the same reason. And so it helps me feel like I'm human again. And
Absolutely.
And that's the thing that I know as a performer, another performer, that sometimes I kind of forget about that someone can be having a really heavy day or heavy life even, and then just being there and hearing some tunes that we used to do for 2 hours just kind of takes them away and just makes things lighter in their life. And that's so important. And that's, I will never give up on my art side of things ever. I mean, it's
so important, and human beings we're social creatures. We need one another. We rely on social interactions, and having those moments of connection and having art. My mom being an artist, I think, it was easy for her to kind of like say, oh, I'm just an artist. Your dad, he's an engineer, go study science, don't do theater, don't do art and like as a profession. But, she always was really encouraging me as a performer. But it's also like for the way that I look at it is that all of these things are equally important. And, I think about like the Dead Poets Society. You're like, of course you need your engineers and you need your doctors. They're necessary to sustain life. But art is what we live for, having that love and having those connections and being able to be present with one another. When people have the flashing of their life, they're not going to be thinking about being alone in a room by themselves. They're going to be thinking about the connections that they had with other human beings. And so that's it at the end of the day, is try to have as many as you can and learn from the ones that aren't so good, and the ones that are great, just like hang on to them for dear life,
Absolutely. And I'm going to just completely throw this out there to you. I know you've got a gazillion things going on in your life, and you got other things that you're trying to attempt and learn and grow and educate with. You would be great having your own show.
Oh my gosh, that's so nice. Thank you.
Your intellect, your viewpoints, your personality. I could easily see you doing either your own podcast or your own interview thing, or just, sessions with Mary or whatever it is.
Oh, I love that.
I
That
would
made my day, Mark. Thank you.
Well, it truly, as we've been talking this last hour, it's like, man, I think people would tune into something if you were the host and doing whatever you chose to do. I would percolate on that idea if I were you.
Okay. Yeah, you planted a seed, hey, that's another thing I've never tried, and hey, let's give it a go.
There we go. But well, Mary, thank you so much for taking the time today. It was so great talking with you and getting to know you better. And again, this has been truly a pleasure for me. I could listen to you for hours. So
Oh, that's so sweet, Mark. Thank you. And congratulations on your successful podcast and for hosting. And genuinely, we need people to come see art, and the job that you do is really important to help build us up and to help remind people what we're here to do. So thank you for your time too.
Well, thank you very much. And everybody that's watching, thank you. If you're watching it right now, if you're watching it down the road. And again, get out and see a show, whatever that show is. Get out there and see a show. Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Bye.